Welcome back to the 21st Century Man podcast. You know we love diving deep into these chapters, and today we're tackling one that really resonated with me, at least. Chapter 39.
Remember to stretch.
Remember to stretch. Such a simple idea, but man, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. I know for me, especially, as I get older, flexibility is something I'm thinking about more and more.
Yeah.
And I, suspect a lot of our listeners are in the same boat. So today we're going to unpack the science behind stretching, why it's absolutely crucial for men's health, and hopefully give you some practical tips you can use right away to make it a part of your routine. Because this isn't just about touching your toes. This is about, long-term health, injury prevention, feeling good in your body. It's really a cornerstone of what it means to be a 21st century man, as Dr. Brandeis and Johnny Jackson talk about in their book.
Yeah, I agree. And this chapter, they do a great job of really breaking it down in a way that's super clear, super easy to understand.
Yeah, and I love how they started off with this quote from Bruce Lee,
Yeah.
right? The martial arts legend. He says, "Notice that the stiffest tree is most easily cracked, while the bamboo or willow survives by bending with the wind."
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a
Yeah.
powerful visual, right? It's not just about, being able to do the splits or, bend over backwards.
Yeah.
It's about resilience. It's
Yeah.
about being able to adapt and withstand the stresses of life.
Exactly. And the chapter really takes that metaphor and runs with it. I mean, it lays out, all these ways that flexibility can, improve your overall health and well-being. They talk about things like poise, having better posture, improving muscle coordination, even your stability, like how well you're able to balance and move through the world. And, these are all things that, maybe we don't always think about on a daily basis, but they can have a really big impact on our lives.
Huge impact. I mean, I think for a lot of guys, especially I'm thinking about myself, like as I get older, you start to feel those aches and pains, those little twinges here and there. And, the chapter makes it crystal clear that flexibility is key to preventing injuries. I mean, you don't want to throw your back out just bending over to pick up your kid's toy or, pulling a muscle playing a casual game of basketball with your buddies, right?
No, absolutely. And it all comes down to, understanding what's actually happening in your muscles when you stretch. And the chapter does a really good job of explaining that, essentially you're elongating those muscle fibers. They use this analogy of like a rubber band that's been, twisted up and left in a drawer for too long. It's
Okay.
all knotted and stiff, right?
Yeah.
Well, our muscles can be kind of like that if we don't stretch them regularly. Those tiny little filaments inside the muscle, they get stuck in this shortened state, and it limits our range of motion.
So, like these filaments we're talking about at the microscopic level, like what are they actually doing when we stretch?
Right. So you can kind of picture it like this. Muscle tissue, it's made up of these bundles of fibers, and those fibers are made up of these even smaller threads called myofilaments. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And when you stretch, you're basically helping these filaments to slide past each other more easily. They become more organized, they're able to lengthen, and it allows the whole muscle to relax and extend further.
Got it.
And the key takeaway here is that this proper alignment of the muscle fibers, that's what allows them to function better. They have better blood flow, they're less likely to get injured. It's like you're giving them the space to do their job properly.
Right. So it's not just about, just like randomly pulling on your muscles. There's actually a science to it.
Yeah, there's definitely a method to the madness. And speaking of science, the chapter also talks about this idea of like use it or lose it when it comes to our muscles. And this is something that I think is really important for men to understand, especially as we age.
Yeah. And, our listeners know we've talked about this before on the podcast, the importance of staying active. But what's the connection to stretching specifically?
Right. So, when we talk about use it or lose it, we're often talking about muscle mass. Our skeletal muscles, those are the ones that are attached to our bones, and they're responsible for all of our movement, right?
Oh.
And when we use them regularly, especially through exercise, it helps to maintain their elasticity, their strength, their size. But when we become sedentary, when we're not using those muscles, our body's like, well, hey, I don't need all this extra muscle tissue. Let's just, break it down and conserve some energy.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And that's why it's so important to keep moving, keep challenging your muscles. And stretching is a big part of that. It's a way of telling your body, hey, these muscles are important. We need them to stay flexible. We need them to stay strong.
Yeah. It's like sending a signal, right?
Exactly.
You're using them, you're keeping them active.
Use it or lose it,
Yeah, use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Now, the chapter doesn't just talk about muscles. It also delves into tendons and ligaments, which Honestly, I always get those two mixed up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. It's understandable. They're both these tough fibrous tissues that are involved in our movement, but they have different roles.
So can you break it down for us? Like tendons versus ligaments, what's the key distinction?
Sure. So tendons, think of them as the connectors between your muscles and your bones. They're incredibly strong, incredibly tough. They're
Hmm.
actually, stronger than steel cable of the same thickness. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
And and their job is to transmit the force that's generated by your muscles to your bones, allowing you to move, allowing you to, lift things, push things, pull things.
Yeah.
They're what allows us to generate power.
Okay, so tendons are all about power, movement. What about ligaments?
Ligaments, those are the connectors between bones. So they're what hold your joints together. They provide stability. They prevent your joints from, moving too far in the wrong direction.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really important for preventing injuries like, sprains or dislocations.
Okay, so tendons are muscle to bone, ligaments are bone to bone. I think I'm finally getting it.
You got it.
All right, now here's the thing that I'm really starting to notice as I get older, and I know a lot of guys can relate to this. That feeling of stiffness,
Yeah.
right? Like you're not as limber as you used to be.
Yeah.
Is that just like a natural part of aging, or is there something else going on there?
Yeah. So unfortunately, it is to some extent a natural part of aging. As we get older, our tissues, they naturally tend to become less hydrated. They lose some of that water content.
Okay.
And that can lead to a decrease in elasticity, not just in our muscles, but also in our tendons and ligaments. It's like they become a little bit more brittle, a little bit less supple.
Yeah, like that rubber band analogy, right? It's like it's been sitting out in the sun too long.
Exactly.
Okay, so if that's happening naturally, what can we do to kind of counteract that? I mean, is stretching the answer?
Stretching is definitely a big part of the answer. What the chapter really drives home is that a consistent daily stretching routine can help to promote flexibility,
Yeah.
to keep those muscles, tendons, and ligaments moving freely. And it can really help to offset some of that natural stiffening that comes with age. It's like, oiling the hinges on a door, right?
Yes.
If you don't oil them regularly, they're going to start to squeak, they're going to get stuck, they're not going to move as smoothly.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's talk about, the different types of stretching. The chapter breaks it down into like active versus passive. Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, so active stretching is when you're using your own muscle power to move a joint through a range of motion and you hold that stretch.
Got it.
So you're actively engaging those muscles. Passive stretching is when you're using an external force like gravity or a strap or even your own hand to help you stretch the muscle.
Okay.
So you're basically relaxing and letting something else do the work for you.
Got it. So both are beneficial, but active might be a little more effective in some cases.
Yeah, active stretching can be a little bit more effective because it helps to improve both flexibility and strength, whereas passive stretching is really more focused on just increasing flexibility.
All right. Now, the chapter also talks about like four main types of stretching:
Mm.
static, PNF, dynamic, ballistic. Let's start with static. I think that's probably what most people are familiar with.
Yeah, static stretching, that's the classic, reach down, touch your toes, hold it for a few seconds kind of stretch.
Right. Yeah.
And it's still very effective type of stretching. It's low risk, it's easy to do. It involves slowly moving a muscle into a stretched position until you feel a gentle pull and then holding that position for a period of time, usually, 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
And that allows the muscle to relax and lengthen.
Okay.
Now, PNF stretching, that's a little bit more advanced.
Yeah.
That stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation.
Say that 3 times fast.
Right. It's a mouthful. But essentially, it's a technique that involves contracting and relaxing the muscle that you're stretching. So you might, stretch a muscle, then you contract it against resistance, and then you relax it and stretch it again. And this helps to kind of override some of your body's natural reflexes that tend to resist stretching. So it can be really effective for increasing flexibility, but it does usually require a partner or at least some sort of external resistance, a wall or a band.
Okay. So static is kind of like the beginner friendly, and then PNF is like if you really want to get serious about it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Then there's dynamic stretching, which is more about movement.
Right.
So it's taking your joints through a full range of motion, but you're not holding the stretches. You're moving continuously. So things like, arm circles, leg swings, torso twists, those are all examples of dynamic stretching.
Got it.
And it's a great way to warm up your muscles before a workout or even just to improve your overall mobility throughout the day.
Okay. So those are all like good types of stretching. What about ballistic stretching? I've heard that that can be like a little bit risky.
Yeah, ballistic stretching is the one that we want to be careful with. That's the one where you're using momentum to force your limbs beyond their normal range of motion, like bouncing to touch your toes.
Right.
And the problem with that is that it can put a lot of stress on your joints and your ligaments. It can actually increase your risk of injury, so it's generally not recommended.
I got it. So avoid the bouncing, stick to the more controlled types of stretching.
Right.
Now, one thing that I was really curious about, like, when is the best time to stretch? I mean, I know some people like to do it in the morning, some people like to do it at night. What does the chapter say about that?
Yeah, so the authors recommend stretching regularly, ideally daily, to get the most benefit. And the best time to do it is actually after you've already warmed up your muscles. So, after a workout or even just a warm shower.
Oh,
Your muscles are going to be more pliable. They're going to be more receptive to stretching.
okay. That makes sense.
And you're less likely to get injured. Now, if you do want to stretch in the morning, that's fine. But just make sure that you warm up first with some light cardio or some dynamic stretching.
Okay. Good to know.
And the chapter also gives some really great specific advice on how to stretch properly. Things like holding each stretch for 30 seconds,
Okay.
breathing deeply, and not bouncing.
Got it.
And I think one of the most interesting things they talk about is this idea of muscle spindles.
Muscle spindles, what are those?
Yeah, so muscle spindles are these tiny little sensory receptors that are located in your muscles.
Yeah.
And their job is to basically protect your muscles from overstretching.
Interesting.
So when you stretch a muscle too far or too quickly, these spindles, they send a signal to your brain that says, hey, 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 slow down, this is too much.
Okay.
And that causes your muscle to contract, to prevent it from getting injured.
Got it.
And that's why sometimes when you're stretching, you might feel that kind of like tight pulling sensation.
Yeah, yeah.
It's your muscle spindles doing their job. And so the key is to stretch to the point where you feel that gentle tension, but not to the point where you're feeling pain.
Okay. So it's like finding that sweet spot, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a dance, between pushing yourself just enough, but also listening to your body and not going too far.
I love that. The chapter even provides some really helpful examples of stretches, like targeted stretches for different parts of your body, like your back, your shoulders, your neck, even your quads and your hamstrings.
Right. And it's so important to make sure that you're stretching both sides of your body equally, to maintain that balance and symmetry. And that's especially important if you have a history of injuries.
Now, before we jump into the nitty-gritty of those specific stretches, I mean, the chapter has some really great visuals and descriptions in there.
It does.
But I do want to touch on some of the warning signs, right? Like things that guys should be aware of that might indicate that they're, doing too much or maybe need to ease up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the chapter goes into a bit of detail about some of the common musculoskeletal issues that men might experience. And it's really helpful information to have because the more you understand about your body, the better equipped you are to take care of it.
Right.
So they talk about things like, muscle cramps and spasms.
Yeah.
Those are, those sudden involuntary contractions that can be really painful.
Oh, yeah.
And they can happen for a variety of reasons, dehydration, overuse, electrolyte imbalances.
Okay.
Then there are trigger points, which are basically like little knots in your muscles.
Oh, yeah.
That can be really tender and painful to the touch. And they can even refer pain to other areas of your body.
Oh.
Yeah, they're nasty.
Yeah.
And then there's delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, which is that muscle soreness that you feel, a day or two after a workout. And that's usually a sign that you've pushed your muscles a little bit too hard, and they're kind of like repairing themselves. And then, of course, there are muscle strains, which are actual tears in the muscle fibers.
Yeah.
And those can be pretty serious. I mean, they can range from, a mild strain that just causes a little bit of soreness to, a complete rupture that requires surgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the chapter does a good job of explaining, the different grades of muscle strains. A grade 1 strain is a minor tear, grade 2 is a more significant tear, and then a grade 3 strain is a complete rupture.
Hmm.
And it also talks about, the RICE protocol for treating muscle strains, which stands for rest, ice, compression, and elevation.
Got it.
And then, importantly, it talks about how to prevent these issues in the first place.
Right.
And that's where stretching comes in, making sure that your muscles are warmed up, that you're stretching them regularly, that you're listening to your body, not pushing yourself too far too fast. These are all really important things for preventing injuries.
Yeah, being proactive.
Yeah.
So just to recap, like, what are some of those key takeaways from the chapter? Like, what are the things that guys should really be doing to incorporate stretching into their lives and make sure they're doing it safely and effectively?
Okay. So key takeaways. Number 1, stretch regularly.
Okay.
Aim for at least a few times a week, ideally daily.
Got it.
Number 2, stretch after you've warmed up your muscles.
Yeah.
So, after a workout or a warm shower. Number 3, hold each stretch for at least 30 seconds.
Okay.
Breathe deeply and don't bounce.
Got it.
Number 4, listen to your body. Stretch to the point where you feel a gentle tension but not pain.
Yeah.
And number 5, focus on the major muscle groups, like your back, your shoulders, your legs.
Okay. Simple but effective. And as you were talking about those takeaways, I was thinking back to that Bruce Lee quote, the stiffest tree is most easily cracked.
Mm,
And it strikes me that, stretching is about so much more than just physical flexibility.
right.
It's also about mental and emotional resilience.
Mm.
It's about being able to, bend and adapt to the challenges that life throws our way without breaking.
Absolutely. I mean, it's that whole idea of being like the bamboo, right? You can
Uh-huh.
bend it, you can sway it, but you can't break it.
Yeah, that's a powerful image. And it makes me think that, maybe there's something to be said for incorporating, some sort of mindful stretching practice into our lives, not just as a way to improve our physical health, but also as a way to cultivate that inner strength and flexibility that we need to navigate the ups and downs of being a man in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive on Chapter 39, Remember to Stretch, from the 21st Century Man. As always, we highly encourage you to check out the book itself. It's packed with wisdom and practical advice that can really help you live a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life. And next time on the 21st Century Man podcast, we're going to be diving into Chapter 40, Yoga for Real Men.
Ooh, looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it should be interesting. So until then, stay flexible, stay strong, and keep moving forward.